Hello, everybody. Come on in, grab a seat, make yourself at home, as you should when you're in Bradley's house. I am your co-host, Jarett Orr. She is the executive director of the NowellFamily Foundation and my best virtual friend, Kellie Nowell. Kellie, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Jarett. How are you doing?
Good. See, I took it easy on you today. I didn't.
You did.
I went light on the intro. We had a lot of fun in the last one.
Yeah. Never know what to expect. Keeps me on my toes.
Good. That's what I'm here to do. We had an awesome show last week. We just keep having a lot of fun doing this podcast, and people are really starting to pick up and enjoy this. We can't thank you guys enough for sharing it and spreading the word all over the place. Before we get started, can we wish a happy belated birthday to your son?
That would be lovely. Yes, my youngest just turned 18 years old on St. Patrick's Day, so I have no more babies. It's heartbreaking, but they're wonderful young men, so I can't complain.
Man, there's nothing worse than going from a kid to an adult. I'll tell you right now, he messed up. I told you. But I guess he didn't. He didn't have much of a choice. Now, Kellie, to keep up with the tradition of the amazing guests that we've been having joining us in Bradley's house, today, I am super excited as we have one of my favorite musicians joining us today. For years, I've been following his band, Bumpin Uglies, on Facebook and checking them out whenever I can. I was lucky enough to pick them up in Portland, Oregon, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was just absolutely blown away. Today, joining us in Bradley's house is Bumpin Uglies frontman, Brandon Hardesty. Brandon, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I've been rewatching The Sopranos recently, and I just watched a solid 2 episodes of the first season. Stopped that to do this interview, so I'm feeling good about myself.
Well, Brandon, we appreciate you putting The Sopranos down and coming and joining us here on Bradley's house. Had I known you've been digging into The Sopranos, I would have just made it real easy and just said, "Hey, B-Hard, how you doing?"
Oh, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's like I'm revisiting old friends. It feels like.
Very nice. We have been talking about having you on the show for quite a while, so thank you for finally coming on. We're really stoked to be able to make this happen.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, Brandon, as I had mentioned, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I came across your music on Facebook. And I saw, you were starting to get shared in a couple of the groups that I followed, and I'm like, yeah, all right, it's another white guy reggae band. I get it. They got a pretty cool name, and someone shared the song. I guess maybe it was Bad Decisions, and I'm like, all right, fine, I give. This is like the 4th time I've seen it today. I clicked on it, and
Great song.
20 seconds into the song, I was just like, what the fuck is this? Where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
And I was totally hooked from there. So it's really cool to be able to have you on the show and doing this. And much like your friend Howie, who we had on a few episodes back, I think it's really awesome to know that you are not a Southern California band. You are actually from the East Coast. How did you get into this genre and style of music?
Well, okay, so out here we call it crab reggae, and yeah, I just it's like I don't know why that's so funny to me, but the dudes from the Expendables, we did a tour with them, and they told me to tell Howie it's something about calling them dirty crab reggae, and I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to make that a thing now. It's East Coast crab reggae.
Trend.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I got into this kind of music like a lot of other people did, which really it all started with Sublime for me. Like I didn't grow up really into reggae. One of my first introductions to it was Sublime, and that's what I thought reggae was for a long time. There's Bob Marley and there's Sublime, and Bob Marley didn't, it was okay. I never loved it, but I enjoyed it. But Sublime moved me, and I spent, at 18 or 19, I didn't know enough about music to know what it was, and I think I figured it out later in life what it was. It was the hip hop element of it, because I always growing up I loved rap music. Like, I feel like from the first time I heard like DMX, I was like, yes, this is it. Like boom bap, that hip hop and stuff like that. And Sublime had a lot of that element to me, and it just hooked me between the beats and Bradley's voice. And so for a long time, like I thought that was reggae. So that's kind of like, that was my introduction to all of this. And I was hooked. I started my first band at 21, 22, and that's when I was like really into Sublime. So that's kind of what we did, like just started kind of emulating that thing, and it went from there. It eventually like it became like a tree where there was like a bunch of branches going in different directions, but it was always rooted in that like hip hop, punky reggae kind of foundation.
That's cool. Do you remember how old you were when you first heard Sublime?
I remember distinctly the first time I heard Sublime, like being like 8 or 9, and ice skating. So I was born in '86.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like I remember specifically "Wrong Way" was the song that I heard, and it was probably right around the time the self-titled record came out, and it was because it was on the radio, and like I just had never really heard anything like that, like the ska thing. And it was, it was like, wow, this is really cool. But then I didn't, it wasn't anything like as a kid, I wasn't into Sublime like that. I didn't really get into Sublime until later in life, like probably like 16, really around the time I started getting fucked up, and,
yeah, I hear that a lot.
yeah, but yeah, like that was the first time I heard them, and then, revisited it later in life and really like fell in love with it.
So when you first started a band, what kind of music were you playing?
Oh man, we were just like whatever we could. We were just like it was just a bar band thing. Like I was right out of high school, I started working at my dad's restaurant because I didn't really do all my friends that I grew up with went to college, and I just wasn't doing college. Like I did community college, so I started waiting tables, and then like waiting tables, you start making like $100, $150 a shift, and it's like 18. You're like, holy shit, I could live off this the rest of my life. This is it. This is what I'm gonna do. So I was like, fuck everything else. Like I'm waiting tables. So then I did that for a few years, and I was like, well, no, I don't. This kind of sucks. I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And I was playing guitar, and my manager was a bass player, and he'd been in bands a bunch. And he had the idea of starting a band with me because I was playing like an open mic at the restaurant and like open mics around town and whatnot. And he was, he was like, I could book us gigs, I could do all this stuff, I have all the gear. So I was like, this will be fun. And we just played cover gigs. We were playing Sublime songs and Jack Johnson songs and Beatles songs and radio, bar music. And instantly I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And like as a kid, I was always really into reading and writing, and I always loved English, and just literature in general. So like as soon as I really started like doing this with music, I started writing, and that's when I really fell in love with it. Like I loved singing, like off the jump, like being in a band and singing and performing for people. And then when I started adding the writing element into it, I was like, wow, this it made me feel something. Like it was like, like I really like felt like I had a purpose and something that I wanted to do. And I just kind of got all in on it. I was like, I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna make a living out of this,
That's awesome. Do you do most of the writing for Bumpin Uglies?
I do. I write all the lyrics, and I mean, like,
nice.
I write. I would say I write the songs, but like, the way we do it is like I write a song like with the chords and the melody and the lyrics, and then we'll get together and arrange the music to record it. But yeah, it pretty much all starts with me and an acoustic guitar and the lyrics. That's
really cool. And how long have you guys been playing together, the current group of guys?
I've been doing it since 2008. Wolfie got in around 2010, and then TJ got in around 2015.
Nice. You guys have been at it a while.
Yeah. It's been a minute for sure.
Do you guys do a whole lot of touring? I mean, obviously pre-COVID, were you doing a lot of touring?
I mean, we called it the never-ending tour before COVID. We just didn't stop, and that's like how I learned, like they don't like write books on this shit. It's not like you can get an apprenticeship to learn how to tour. Like you kind of just have to go out and figure it out. Like I always tell people when they ask me, it's just a matter of like who wants it the most. And like,
yeah.
it's a matter of going out and wanting it and being willing to put in the hours, and also just being smart about, you know, your resources, like your money and just the decisions that you make, you know, it's unfortunate, but like this business is like really hard. It's a really expensive business to get into. And, you know, like a band like us, like we didn't have any investors, or, you know, we didn't have like rich parents helping us out. So it's like we were making our money playing bar gigs around town. Like when I started this band, I was selling weed, and I was like getting to the point in my life where I was getting like a lot of anxiety from selling weed. So I decided to stop selling weed, and I took my re-up money. Like I was buying a quarter pound at a time. And so I took that money and I bought a PA, and then I started playing bar gigs and like fucking, you know, taking the money from the bar gigs, and you know, save that money. You pay your bar tab at the end of the night. You give each guy like, you know, like we're probably doing like 30 to 50 bucks a night, and the rest of it you put into a band fund so that you can reinvest and have money for the studio, or have money for a van, or have money for whatever. And then it's just like, literally it's been 12 years of that, like just like slowly but surely making more money, and then reinvesting that money so that, you know, eventually you can get like merch, or, you know, do whatever just to like level up and do stuff, you know.
So did that whole touring thing get harder as you started a family? I mean, I know you have a beautiful wife and a baby, and one on the way. Congratulations.
And honestly, it's gotten easier, because like as soon as we started making like decent money, everything got easier. Because like when we weren't making money, it was a nightmare. You know, like you're like, I mean, you know, felt like cowboys to an extent, because it's like utter freedom. But like we were literally like driving around the country in a van that would break down just like intermittently, and you know, sleeping on strangers' floors, playing for $100 to $250 a night. Like it's not sustainable. And then like,
right.
It's just, but like, you know, when you start making like decent money, like really when we got our current booking agent, that's when shit started getting easier, because we started making like proper money. And we're not like killing it by any stretch of the imagination, but we're, you know, it's enough to like, you know, pay your bills and like sleep in hotels as opposed to sleeping on strangers' floors, you know? Like
that's a game changer.
Yeah, that's always nice. I mean, I feel like it happened, I guess for me, from the outside looking in, I feel like it happened like so fast. I'm sure for you, it probably didn't feel as fast going through what you're going through, but it was like one day you kind of had this like little underground buzz, and then the next thing you know, you've got these groups on Facebook that are just blowing up.
Well,
the buzz was so strong.
Well, what it was is, it does seem like it's so, like, essentially when I started working with my agent, you know, he told me, he was like, look, man, like you've been touring for like 6 or 7 years, but we have to start from ground zero, because you've been doing it wrong. Like you've just been playing bars, you know, like touring, like there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And we were doing it the wrong way. Like it's just like anything else, where it's like it's relationship based. So like you want to get on festivals and you want to get on tours and stuff. It's a matter of developing relationships with the promoters that book those festivals, you know? So like you want to play their clubs and whatnot. So like, you know, but that said, like when we started working with our agent about 4 years ago, that's when shit started clicking. And a big reason for that was A, like developing those relationships and starting to do it the right way. But then B, also, like I said, we started making proper money, and we did have that buzz going, that organic buzz that was like the result of, that was just me being active on Facebook and going in groups and promoting us. That was Dawn, who runs our Facebook group, being super active and helping grow the buzz, and doing like free things, you know, like we had, so that created the organic thing. But then once we started making real money, that was one of the first things I did, is I started reinvesting money into marketing, like heavily. Like as soon as like we had like an expendable income, you know, like doing paid marketing, like social media buys, like that shit helped so much. Like I try to emphasize that to people. Like I feel like you could not spend enough money on marketing. Like it's one of the most important things you could do as a band, I think. And that really,
there's no manual for this. Like, how did you learn all this stuff? Was
well,
it just sort of common sense, or?
I grew up in a business-oriented family. Like, my dad owned 2 restaurants growing up, and he was super into, he's just always about his business, you know? And, like, I did go to community college for business, and, you know, like, I ended up getting to about, like, a semester away from a degree in finance. I would not credit any of this stuff to anything I learned in school. I think most of it is just like the upbringing that I had, and like my dad kind of always like beating it into my head, like being good with money and having like a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. And like, you know, like something he always said was like, you know, like working in a restaurant, like you can't like own a restaurant unless you know how to wash the dishes. You know what I mean? Like it's and I've kind of always held that philosophy. Like as soon as I figured out that this is something I wanted to do, I wanted to learn everything about it. And I've always been I'm not like, you know, I have pride just like anyone else, but I'm not too proud. Like I'm the first to ask anyone a question if I'm curious about something. Like I'm like shameless about hitting people up and like asking for advice or asking for favors or asking for whatever. Like I'm just trying. I have no problem putting my pride on the back burner to figure something out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to treat it like a business. I think that's the hard part for most musicians, because you're an artist, you're creative, but then having to, you know, treat your music as a business to really make anything happen. That's got to be tough.
It is. It is. I honestly get like a lot of satisfaction out of it, because it's like I'm good at it, and and it's just like it's like a whole nother itch that you get to scratch. It's like totally different from the creative aspect. I don't know. It's almost like a puzzle. Like, you know, like so I love Risk. I love the game Risk. You know what I mean? I love all those kind of games, like commit, like, and like conquer the world kind of shit. You know what I mean? So to me, it's almost like that, where it's like resource management and like connecting the dots to figure out how to do shit, you know?
Yeah, definitely. What are some of the perils of life on the road? I mean, with all the touring that you guys have done, there's got to be a lot of ups and downs, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous for sure. Like just driving that much, you're driving 8 hours a day, just shit happens, you know. You know, breaking down is scary. Just you know, just a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, a lot of, you know, inner drama amongst the people that you're with. Like that's a big thing, you know. Like you want to make sure the people you're with, like your relationships are like solid, and that there's a certain amount of mutual respect, or else it can get super unpleasant.
Yeah. Obviously, one of the things we talk about a lot on the podcast is, you know, addiction and recovery and that kind of thing, and definitely how that intersects with music. And I know, just from following you personally on social media, that you've had times where you were sober on tour and not sober on tour. And what's the difference like for you personally in those two?
I mean, like, so right now I'm sober. I haven't had a drink in about 15 months. And I'm not an alcoholic. Like I've figured that out about myself through my sobriety, but like I've just decided to stay sober for my own health and for a variety of reasons. One of which is like I'm way, way better at singing when I'm not drinking. And it's like, it's funny because I kind of got like a lot. I was a really good drunk, you know, like I was very good at handling my shit drunk. Like
good drunk.
Yeah, I mean, like I would be like just walking around on stage drinking whiskey out the bottle and like rapping or whatever, you know what I mean? And I always could hang and do it, you know, and I always got the job done. But like we started recording our sets probably mid 2019 when we started touring with an in-ear rig. I just started recording our sets, and you know, I like when I really would listen back to it, you could hear towards the end of the night, you know, like I was still getting the job done, but like my voice I would start to slur, and I'd start to like, you know, like get a little raspy and shit. Like you could just tell the whiskey was like catching up with me. It wasn't anything bad. It wasn't like it was like probably 95% of people wouldn't care, but I could hear it. But like then like when I was sober and I recorded the set and listened back to the game tape, it's like I was on from beginning to end, just like killing it. And it's like, once again, like getting back to just like pride and like this is what I do for a living. It's like if I'm going to do this for a living, like I don't want to be phoning it. I don't want to do any, like I want to be the best, you know. I want to be fucking awesome and like do it consistently awesome. So it's like if not drinking makes me better, then fuck it. You know what I mean? Like I just won't drink, you know. And it's like it's one of the things that like that's just one element of it, you know. Like the other element is like the health aspect of it, and just you know, like becoming a father. Like I like the idea of like my kid not growing up and seeing his dad like sloppy drunk, you know, and like putting two to two together and figuring out like that's a thing, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't believe you just said you're not a drunk. I've always lived by the, I'm a goddamn drunk. Alcoholics go to meetings.
Well, no, I mean, so the point of that line.
It's a great song.
Like, I mean, the point of that line, there's a serious difference between a drunk and an alcoholic. Like an alcoholic, someone who's in recovery, who has like, who admits they have a problem. I would argue a drunk is someone who's in denial, and is very much still in the bottle,
I'm just having some fun with you. Now, was there a point with Bumpin Uglies where you got a good run of songs together that you wrote and you were like, oh shit, man, this is going to happen. I mean, we're going to do this thing. Yeah,
I mean, it was probably right around the Beast from the East record when I realized shit was like clicking. Like I don't know, I always kind of like felt strongly about what we were doing and like my ability as a songwriter. But like I really started to see shit was clicking with Beast from the East. Like working with Howie is one of the best things we ever did, because like I'm like, my head as a writer, I've always been so much more focused on like the lyrics. Like that's just what I care about more is lyrics than music. Like I think lyrics is what moved me. And like so when we would go into recording, like we would just go in and try to get the best live version of the song, and it was fine, but it just wasn't as full or professional. And then Howie is just like such a monster producer and has such a good ear for the other side of it, and it's just something I never thought of, and that was the first record we made with him, was Beast from the East. So it was like we had these songs that I was feeling good about, but we were really at that point like finding a better sound, like a bigger sound, and it was resonating with people. Like we dropped All in Stride like a year before we dropped the record, and people just lost their fucking minds because it was a
great song.
Yeah, it's great. Like Ted kills it, but it was also just like the fullest sound that we'd ever had, and it was like, oh man, okay, so this was like, it's just another piece of the puzzle. It was like, okay, so this is something we need to do. We need to level up the sounds, like with this, the full-on production.
When we had Howie on the podcast, he said something that still sticks with me, where he said when he's writing, he wants every single lyric to be tattoo worthy, right? Like he wants every single line to hit so perfectly that it's something that you could get tattooed on your body. And I thought to myself, that's got to be crazy pressure as a songwriter. Do you ever find yourself like, especially after that Beast from the East album, it just blew up. What was it like being like, shit, man, I got to get back and do this again?
I mean, I'm always like worried about like if the well runs dry, But like that said, it's never really been an issue at the same time. Like, and honestly, like the older I get, the less like romantic songwriting becomes to me. It really is like, like when you're getting into it, you think of some like brooding dude with a fucking glass of scotch and a typewriter and a candle fucking sitting at a table like writing up fucking lyrics, and it's like this super brooding thing. You know what I'm saying?
Is that not how it goes?
Fuck no, dude. No. Like that's like no. No. Like and like when I was younger, man, like I would like just sit around and like wait for an inspiration to hit me, and then like I would be like, oh man, and then I'd work on the song and it would become like a thing. But like as I've gotten older, I treat it like a job, dude. Like I wrote like almost 20 songs in the month of February just because I woke up every day. I made a pot of coffee. I went down to my studio, smoked a little weed, I'd come up with an idea and I'd write a song. It's just like, it's a discipline, like, and it's not everything you write has to be like incredible. You don't have to like fucking release the bad stuff, but it's just an exercise and a muscle, just like anything else, like the more you do it, the better you get at it. Yeah, exactly. And the biggest thing is just making sure that you do it.
That COVID song you wrote was awesome. I think, would you drop that probably like March last year, you started throwing that out there, that you wrote the song about COVID kind of having you stuck at home. And I mean, that was awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was, it's just something I was doing to pass the time. I just thought that that was really, I did a bunch of projects like that just to occupy my mind throughout quarantine and COVID. And that was the first thing, was writing, releasing, and recording a song a week.
Do you think you'd ever want your kids to go into the music industry?
Oh man, I always joke and say no. And I just want my kid to be happy, man. I want him to be happy and fulfilled. And I'd like to say independent, but that's not for everyone, I really enjoy being my own boss and being in charge of my own destiny. But there's a lot of people, I think, who find happiness with not having to worry about finding their own meal. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people who would enjoy putting in 40 hours a week and having reliable health care and not having that stress of it. So I just want him to be happy and fulfilled, whatever that looks like. And if he does get into the music industry, I can definitely help him a lot and tell him what not to do,
Yeah,
help avoid some of those landmines that are out there. Now, Kelly and I were actually just having this conversation, oddly enough, probably just about a week ago. You have a lot of really fun songs that I enjoyed. I mentioned Bad Decisions early. Fuck It, I always get a kick out of. Addictive Personality, I think, is amazing. And I've told you this before, dude, Hallucinations is a hit. I mean, that is a hit record. That is a song that should be played on the radio constantly. That song is one that when I hear it, I'm just like, wow. I mean, where did that song come from? And do you think that's one of your more popular songs? Do you get that requested more than any of the other ones?
Yeah, people love that song, man. I wrote that song about a period of my life that and honestly, it's the same reason that I loved Sublime is why people love that song. And it's because everybody relates to that period of their life. I wrote that song when I was 22, 23. And I was hanging out with my friends that didn't go to college, and we were all just kind of shitheads that were selling weed, and we all played a lot of poker and fucking just got fucked up all the time, and it was family, that it was just this motley crew of belligerents, and it's very romantic and very free and very it's a period, it's a period that's not sustainable, I would argue. It's no one, I don't think, I'm 35, I wouldn't want to be living that way fucking at this point in my life, but I definitely look back and listen to that period, or, I look back at that period very fondly, and I'm fuck yeah, we were killing it, you just feel like you're unstoppable at that age, and, I think that's why people relate. They love that kind of shit. It's I think I personally I see a lot of that same thing in Sublime,
You had mentioned that your dad is real business minded, owned 2 restaurants. You started working, in your career. That was your first gig. Did he have aspirations of you maybe taking over the restaurants or moving you in? And what did he think when you were like, hey man, I'm going on the tour and we're called Bumpin Uglies?
He did not. He wanted me to go to college. He wanted both me and my brother to go to college because, it's kind of just what I said with my kid. He ran his own business his whole life, and it's hard. That shit's hard. No matter what you do, it's just fucking hard and it's stressful. And I don't think he wanted that for us. I think, my dad came from the generation where if you had a college degree, that really meant something. Granted, it ended up being where it is now, where it doesn't really mean as much. But, I think that's what he really wanted for us, was to be educated. Now, the band, he definitely, him and my mom both, always worried about me because, I didn't do well in school just because I didn't, it's not like I'm dumb. I just didn't fucking care about school. So I didn't really try at school. And then, then I was working at the restaurant, and just getting fucked up and making money and doing whatever. But when I found this band thing, I was all in on it. you know, and it took a while for them to realize that it was something that I want, you know, because it's like, who wants to hear that their kid is starting a band? Like, or like that's, and they're like telling your parents, like, this is what I'm going to do, you know? It took a while to convince them that, like, it was this thing that was going to work. And I actually, like, remember distinctly the first time my dad, like, really took it seriously. And it was like, he had a house down, or like a condo kind of thing down in Sarasota, Florida. And we were down there on tour in the early years, and we met up with him and crashed with him while we were down there. And he took me and the boys out to like a Hooters type thing and just got us fucking hammered on a Sunday and just bought us apps, and we were just bullshitting and telling stories and stuff. And it was like the first time he'd ever like talked to me like a man, you know what I mean? He was like telling me like war stories from like when he was my age and just doing all this fucked up shit in the 70s. You know, and it was like one of those things, like I could really tell at that point, like he didn't get what I was doing, but he respected that I was doing it, you know, and that I was treating it seriously and I was treating it like a business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's you know, when you get to have that opportunity where you can like actually hang out with your dad man to man rather than, you know, father son, you know, that's pretty big. And I'm sure that was really cool for you. And I'm sure now they kind of realize, hey, he knows what he was doing. This worked.
Oh yeah. Well, my mom on the other end, like, you know, she was always supportive, but I don't think she ever really got it until she got on Facebook. And then when she got on Facebook, she eventually discovered Uglies Nation. And then she saw this like community that we'd created, and she was like, holy shit, like people actually care about my son's band. Like, and I was like, Mom, I've been trying to tell you this, like people fuck with us, like it's cool, like I'm gonna be all right. Like
For those who don't know, Uglies Nation is the fan group on Facebook. Great group of people, by the way. So much positivity and just really good people. I've met some amazing people in there, and I think it's really cool that you have such a good core following, you know. And I think that makes a huge difference when you start having people that, you know, that are promoting for you and you know, are really all about your music. I mean, that's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. It's like, I mean, that's the foundation of all of this. Like, that's what allows us to do this, is because it's all, you know, that's what finances it, is fan support. So it's like, yeah, I'm very aware of that. And I, you know, I will never take that for granted. And I try to just be as appreciative as possible. And, you know, just like, I think a lot of it too is like working in the restaurant business for so long, and then just always kind of like being around people. And I genuinely like interacting with people, and I'm kind of just like a goofy dude. So like, I just like fucking with people, you know, so it's, I don't know. I just try to treat it like just fucking around with people in there, you know?
Yeah. So who came up with the name Bumpin Uglies?
Oh my God. That's like one of my biggest regrets is like, if I'd known I was going to like end up doing this for a living, like I wish we could have a different name, but, it was, it's my buddy Zach that I like actually started the band with like a million years ago. Like he played percussion, and we were just trying to think of a band name, and we wanted it to be memorable and funny. And he came up with Bumpin Uglies, and it was the only thing we didn't all hate. So we were like, fuck it, let's be Bumpin Uglies. And
Nice. The band Brad was in before Sublime was Sloppy Seconds. And when they were trying to come up with the name for Sublime, they were like, yeah, we need something a little bit more, you know, acceptable for radio.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, like it's my first band. It's like, I did not expect it to go this far. I definitely would have probably put the kibosh on Bumpin Uglies, but at this point it is what it is.
Hindsight's 2020.
Say again?
I said hindsight's 2020, man. You know?
Exactly, man. It's all part of the story at this point. So.
Well, I'll tell you a fun Facebook group story, Brandon. As the podcast was getting going, I was looking for like-minded individuals to where I could share the podcast with, people that would enjoy it. And so I just started digging through the groups of the bands that were on the house that Bradley built, and, you know, finding their fan groups. And I was already in Uglies Nation, and I found another group, another Bumpin Uglies group, and I'm like, oh man, sweet. These are people that are also into Bumpin Uglies, and it seems like maybe they just like the hits. You know, they're not maybe huge Bumpin Uglies fans, but they like the singles. So I hop in there, and I start sharing some posts, and finally one day someone's like, why do you keep sharing only this in here? And, why are you just self-promoting in here? And I'm like, well, I feel like you guys are all self-promoting in here. All I see are fucking selfies of people in here. And some of you guys are scantily clad. And they're like, yeah, this is a singles group for fans of Bumpin Uglies. That's what we're here to do. And I was just like, oh. All right.
Single people, not single songs.
Yeah. So single people that enjoy Bumpin Uglies. So shout out to the Bumpin Uglies singles group. Sorry that I flooded your feed for a little while there, and I hope people are making Bumpin Uglies matches in there. I hope people are meeting and they're Bumpin Uglies off of it. That's what I'm hoping for.
Honestly, that's the whole reason I got into the music business, was to get other guys laid. So that's fucking. Mission accomplished, I guess.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah, guaranteed. So there's the one side of you, Brandon, who's playing this, awesome, rock, reggae, rap. You're doing a little bit of everything, much like Sublime did. But then there's also the version of you that's hanging out and watching and listening to a lot of Cocomelon these days, right?
Yeah, fuck, dude. Fuck Cocomelon.
That fucking JJ, I don't understand what's so funny about him lying after he gets caught eating sugar. Like, you got busted, Dad wants you to open your mouth, and then we all laugh it off? I mean, that goes down in my house. Some shit's happening.
Yeah, dude, he's a little bastard.
Okay, for those of us who don't have young children, can you share what Cocomelon is?
It's just cartoon that has, like, the songs are, like, very basic and like, they almost sound like nursery. They're like nursery rhyme songs, but it's all about like lessons and shit. And it's like, really, to me, it's like no different than any other kids show, but it's like so addicting. Like, my kid, he wakes up in the morning and he runs in and he hops into bed and he starts like poking us. He's like, Cocomelon, and then you like put it on, and like he'll be watching it, and if it starts buffering. You know what I mean? He like freaks out. He's like, ah! You know what I mean? It's like it's not healthy at all. You know, like his reaction to it.
I had mentioned on Facebook, and as a disclaimer, I don't do this, but I'm pretty sure I could turn on Cocomelon and like go to the grocery store and get gas and come back, and my 3-year-old would be fine. He wouldn't move from the spot that he's in, because like once that gets on, man, he is in the zone. There is just nothing breaking him away.
Dude, I've started waking up in the morning and having those songs stuck in my head, and it's just the worst. It makes me so sad.
Yeah, well, you know what?
I'm gonna have to check it out.
No, you don't. You don't have to. You don't have to check it out at all. But I saw you mention it on Facebook a few nights ago, Brandon, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm also dealing with this Cocomelon shit. I can't. My kid doesn't care what I got going on if Cocomelon's on.
How old's your kid?
So my youngest is 3. And he is just like hooked. But here's the thing, like, I get a lot of shit from people. They're like, you can't let your kid have that much screen time. You can't let him sit and watch TV. And I'm like, listen, they're teaching him to count and say please and thank you. And I don't want to do that. So, you know what I mean? Like, they're hooking me up. Otherwise, I'm getting out the fucking flashcards and going through the alphabet with them. But I could just flap it on the TV, and they're doing it for me. So I guess I kind of owe them. I owe them a little thank you, I suppose.
Yeah, man.
Parenting tips on the Bradley's House podcast.
You should check out Trash Truck on Netflix. That was a really good one. That was like I was really enjoying before Cocomelon took over.
My son's first one was Boss Baby, man. Like the Boss Baby series on Netflix, just like God, I mean, he was just so enamored by it. And when that wore off, I was like, what am I going to do here? And that's right when we found Cocomelon and Pink Fong. I've literally, my 3-year-old has been injured trying to run into the room when he hears the Pink Fong click on. Cause like when I need to get him to sit her down, I'll either throw on Cocomelon or a Pink Fong thing. And when that intro, Pink Fong, and you just hear the feet come pounding, boom, 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 he can't get in the fast enough. So, I guess I like to have some fun with it, but realistically, that's like kind of like my co-parent right now.
whatever gets it done, man.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So, Brandon, you were on the House That Bradley Built album. Thank you guys so much for being a part of that awesome project. We were stoked to have you guys do a song. Tell me how you came up with Same in the End.
I wanted to do one that was like a little punkier. I've always loved that song. It's just a fun song to do. You know what I mean? I was stoked to be a part of it, and it was absolutely. I'll tell you. So like when I was getting into Sublime, like I said, it was like around 18-ish, 16 to 18, and I remember it was like CDs were still a thing. So like I was buying CDs, Sublime CDs at like my local Tower Records, and I guess it was like right around the time that another compilation came out, and it had like G Love on it, and some other, like Jack Johnson did Bad Fish. I remember that distinctly because it was like right when Jack Johnson was a thing, and I was like, damn, this is so cool. Like this is so fucking cool. Like all these dudes are covering this fucking these Sublime songs. So like it really meant a lot to me. Like like whatever 15 something 16 years later to be involved with that, because for me it's kind of like bringing the whole thing full circle,
And I know the
Absolutely.
fans, your fans love it. I know there was just a big push to get you to do Hong Kong Phooey on one of your live streams last week. And, and you fucking did it, man. You did it.
Hey, once again, man, it's all for me. It's all about the fans. If the fans want me to fucking play Hong Kong Phooey, I'll play Hong Kong Phooey. I always hated that. I always hated that cover. It never did anything for me. But like, if they want, like whatever, man.
Did you watch the show, or are you too young to remember the show?
Oh no, I loved Hong Kong Phooey. Like it's just, I just like I don't know. Like for me, like the thing that got me about Sublime was like the brutal honesty and like the like songs like Pool Shark. It's like Jesus Christ, like you could. It's like you just like feel that in your soul, and it's like. Yeah, like Hong Kong Phooey, just it wasn't that for me. You know what I mean? It's like a goofy cover, and it's like for me, it's like I we did that cover at Dayman from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like I think it's like the same thing, kind of thing,
Yeah, well, we grew up watching Hong Kong Phooey. That's probably why he wanted to do it.
Well, have you ever heard Brad's interview before while they were there doing Hong Kong Phooey? With him, Bud, and Eric sitting on a couch, and Brad's like, yeah, man, we're the worst band on this compilation, and the only reason they brought us out was because it's going to be a big tax write-off for them. It's pretty classic Brad on the interview, but I don't know. I'm at the point now where I'll take any Sublime I can get. Yeah,
for sure. There was one Sublime thing I saw from, I think it was like their first tour into Florida, and they're like playing outside of a record shop. They just have like this huge PA set up, and they're just playing. It's just like a lot of jams and shit, but it was so fucking dope. And like,
it's one of my favorite slow rides is on that.
Yeah. There was a period in my life where I just was like just diving through YouTube, finding whatever I could, like interviews, live shit like that, all of that.
Yeah, that was like the Groove Tube, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah.
That show was. It's like one of my favorites, and there's some fun interviews out there too, and that's where Miguel and Brad are going back and forth, and smoke everything in sight except penis. So,
and see, like that would, like if someone said something like that today, like they would get canceled. Like that whole like era of being able to make jokes like that is just behind us, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I'm okay with it, by the way, for anyone out there. I'm not trying to step on any toes here. It was just a funny line at the time, in that if you guys want to smoke movies, do it.
It's funny as fuck, man. That shit's funny, man. I don't care what you say. It's funny.
So, tell me a little bit about Weekend at Wolfie's, how it got started, what it is, and how it's grown into this phenomenon that it is now.
Weekend at Wolfie's is just, it's a festival that we put on ourselves, and it only happened 1 year before COVID happened, but like it was super magical and it went off really well. It's in the mountains of Bedford, Pennsylvania. We play 4 sets over the course of 3 weekends, and then we have just a bunch of our homies from the road to come out and play with us. Camping festival, very family oriented. The first year we did it, we had people travel from all over the country to come to it. And it's great, man. It's something I want to do the rest of my life, man. Just have it be like annual summer camp,
How does So feel like being in the limelight so much? I mean, a lot of these times you're doing these live streams and she's just like hanging out, doing house shit, walking around, sitting on the couch, doing whatever. Did she ever anticipate that she would be such a big part of this?
It has her ups and downs for sure. Like she definitely likes it. And she's so supportive. Like I couldn't ask for a more supportive partner, which is incredible. But it can be a lot too, because like most people are cool with it, but some people just like don't respect boundaries, and like, so she'll get people like messaging her, like people will message her to tell me something, you know what I mean? Which is like, it's not a big deal, but at the end it's just kind of weird, like,
Kelly, do you know anything about that?
I do know a little about that. Yes. Thank you, Jarett.
Yeah.
But, of course you appreciate that people are enthusiastic and that kind of thing,
Yeah. And that's what I always tell her, and she gets it. You know what I mean? Like, and in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a small sacrifice to pay, but so it's like, it has its ups and it has its downs. At the same time, she gets to go to like 1 million like free fucking festivals and shows and see like cool shit and get to go on tour buses for bands she likes, and you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like the good outweighs the bad, but
Sure.
Does she still have that 9 to 5?
Visible she is. I think it's great how visible she is. Like she's such a big part of Uglies Nation and, just of the whole scene surrounding Bumpin Uglies. And I think that's really cool to see that you've really incorporated your whole family into it.
Yeah, it's really, it's cool. It's like, it's almost like a reality show at times, but it's...
Well, she...
As long as you don't get voted off the island.
Right.
Well, she had that 9 to 5 with the healthcare perks, and you got shows in a new state every night like the circus. So.
Not anymore, bro. Now we're both self-employed and buying that sweet, super expensive private insurance.
Ooh, nice. So you guys are... I see that you just released a new song, just hit on YouTube, and it's just been getting shared around. You got a lot of new music lined up for us?
Yeah, man. Like, so what we're doing, it's called the Never Ending Drop, which is, we're just doing a song a month, kind of indefinitely. It's going to be the second Friday of every month. And, once that project concludes, we have another, like, 8 to 10 songs that are sitting in the cooler that are going to get released probably in either late 2021 or early 2022. And, I've been writing like a monster. And we'll probably get back in the studio to record that stuff this summer. So, I mean, the plan is just, keep writing and releasing music until the wheels come off. And then once touring is the thing again, I keep telling my wife, like, as soon as touring opens back up, I'm going out for a gallon of milk and she's going to see me in 8 months. So, like,
I'm sure she's excited about that.
Yeah, man, it'll be something. So,
you've done a bunch of, things out there, and is there I don't want to say a dream show, but is there a band out there that you really look up to right now that you'd like to get on tour with at some point?
I mean, I want to tour with Stupid really badly.
Yeah, we want that also.
I mean, like, I like goals, like, for sure, like bands I definitely want to tour with as support. I'd say, like, Stupid is top of the list, like Soja, Stick Figure, The Movement. I really like The Movement a lot. Like, I think that'd be, like, just fun to tour with.
For sure.
The Skints, I fucking love the Skints. I just want them to come back to America.
Aren't they the greatest?
Yeah, man. Like, I love rap music, and, like, especially, like, British grime music is, like, so cool, and I love what they've done with, like, dub reggae and rap. Like, it's truly unique in a scene that I feel like like gets kind of, a lot of people bite off each other and you get a lot of like recycled sounds. Like I think the Skints are like truly like a unique sound in that scene.
Yeah, very fresh.
Yeah.
So you mentioned...
We've seen them about half a dozen times. My oldest son's very first mosh pit was at a Skints concert.
Hell yeah. Yeah, they're just...
a big moment.
They're so fucking dope. Like live and recorded. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, they're so amazing live.
So you mentioned you're a big hip hop fan, and you mentioned DMX. Now you and I are about the same age. I'm 2 years older than you are. DMX was a big part of my hip hop fandom as well. In fact, he's like one of the only artists to ever have 2 #1 records in the same calendar year. Who are some of your other hip hop and rap influences that you like? If I'm digging through your CDs, who am I coming across?
I mean, it ranges, you know what I mean? Like when I was growing up, like I'd say like some top shit for me. It was like Nas and Mobb Deep and Wu-Tang, you know, like obviously like Biggie, Big L, like Tupac. As I got older, I have had more of appreciation for like Tribe Called Quest, and like, you know, like the earlier shit, and KRS-One, you know. But now, like these days, I'm really into, I love Kendrick Lamar. I think he's like one of the best things going on in current hip hop. You know, like pretty much anything Dre produces is fucking dope. And then there's this group out of Buffalo called Griselda that I'm super amped on.
I know them very well. I'm actually doing this from Buffalo, New York right now.
Oh, dude, every time we play in Buffalo, I put Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine on our guest list. And
have they ever showed?
Fuck no, they haven't showed. But like, I like when we do Hard Liquor now, like I'll be like in between the gaps, I'm just like like all their like ad libs they do all the time. Like I fucking love Griselda, bro. It's the same like Mobb Deep. It's just like gangster coke rap. It's like I can't relate to it at all, but for whatever reason, it gets my blood bumping.
Yeah, we had Marshall on the podcast a few weeks ago, Marshall Goodman, and I asked him. I said, "All right, so here's an opportunity for me to kind of fanboy out a question that I've always wanted to know. In April 29th, there's absolutely a Mobb Deep sample in that song. As long as I'm alive, I'm gonna live illegal. Where did that come from?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, man, I don't know what you're talking about." And I was like, "Oh, I get it. You didn't get that cleared. Okay, cool." And he goes, "But I will tell you, I'm a huge Mobb Deep fan, but I don't know, I don't know who put that in there or where that came from." And I was like, I knew that was a Mobb Deep sample in the middle of that.
The Infamous is like one of the best albums of that whole period, man. Like Infamous and Illmatic are probably are like.
Illmatic I could play from front to end, and it's, you know, Illmatic, AZ was the first rapper ever to get paid $1 million for a guest verse on that. And it was just a little 30-second spot that he did on Illmatic. But that's one of my all-time favorites. I'm also a huge Lost Boys mark. I loved the Lost Boys. And so yeah, I was a huge rap fan as well. So it's just funny to hear that, you know, you were also huge into rap and hip hop, but also Sublime, because although Brad was a huge rap fan and hip hop fan, and you hear it in a lot of his music, it seems like those two groups outside of music don't really connect.
Well, like, so the way, and I think a lot of this is like similar with like probably how Brad wrote lyrics, but like, I didn't realize this until later in life, and I started like critically thinking about like how I was writing. But like a lot of how I write like lyrics and like my flow, it's like it's rap. It's straight rap, but I'm singing it because I'm a singer. You know what I mean? Like it's just like rap with a melody, and like Brad did that same shit, and I think a lot of that comes from like dance hall shit. You know what I mean? And I don't know, man. Yeah, it's just like. It's just something about it. I just like it. I like the cadence of it, you know?
Do you find it difficult now, being our age with kids, to still enjoy rap music? Because there's a lot of times that I'll click on YouTube or something when the kids aren't around and they're outside playing, and they'll come walk in and, you know, Shook Ones will be playing, or I'll have some old Tupac playing, and I'm like, yeah, nope, this can't happen. I got to turn this off.
Well, no, I don't feel weird about it at all, and it's like, I'll tell you why. It's like the same reason that I like listening to like Woody Guthrie, you know what I mean? And like Woody Guthrie's most famous records was about. It was like the first concept record, and it was all about growing up in the American Dust Bowl, and it's just these stories. It's like stories about a period of time that I will never relate to and I'll never understand, but it's honest storytelling and it makes me feel something. And it's the same thing with rap music. It's like I can't relate to most of the shit they're talking about, but I can appreciate the storytelling and the honesty, and it makes me feel something. So that's all I want from music is like honesty and emotion. And like whatever gets that out of me, like I'm going to listen to that forever. And that's my approach to songwriting and making music as well. I just want to tell good stories and make people feel shit,
It's awesome.
So I'll be bumping Mobb Deep until the wheels come off, bro. I'll be 90 years old driving around smoking cigars and bumping Shook Ones. You can believe that.
Yeah, there's nothing that gets my blood pumping like anything in the world. Like, I mean, when Shook Ones is on, I feel like I'm an untouchable individual.
Yes,
it's a game changer for me. Brandon, every time we have a guest on the show, and especially when I know that they're big fans of Sublime, I ask them the same question. And I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to ask you. If you and I had just met and you told me that one of your big influences that got you into music was the band Sublime, and I said, man, I'm really not familiar with this band. I'll give you an opportunity to play me one song to catch me. One song to say, hey, this is the band. What song would you play to grab me and try to turn me into a Sublime fan?
Boss DJ. Easy.
Very good choice.
I love that answer. In fact, Kelly, I was just telling you a few weeks ago that a lot of times people ask me what my favorite line or part of a Sublime song is, and it's probably just Brad humming towards the end of Boss DJ. It just does something
that,
for me.
I'll tell you why too, man. Like, and it comes back to what I was saying. Like, I appreciate production, and I appreciate like the band, and I appreciate all the cool shit that they did. But like my philosophy with like songwriting at its core is like the song needs to just exist on its own. Like if you can't take a song and play it with like an acoustic guitar or a piano and have like vocals over it and have it move you, then fuck that song. And that's what that is it's just like his beautiful, passionate voice and just like just a stripped down acoustic, and it's beautiful. Like it like if you don't feel something when you hear that song for the first time, like there's something fucking wrong with you. So like
yeah, agreed. Much like the song says, there's a lot of times that after it's done, I'm like, you know what? I got to hear that one more time. I'm gonna run that one back because I do want to hear that song twice. So I think that's a great pick, and I'm pretty sure you're the first guest. You're the first guest to say Boss DJ.
Well, I'm also like really into acoustic music, so that I don't know.
No, it's a perfect answer. All right, well, I'm going to put you on the spot again. If you told me that you were in the band Bumpin Uglies, and I wanted you to play me one Bumpin Uglies song that kind of explains who you guys are, what your sound is, what your vibe is, what Bumpin Uglies song would you play?
Dayman.
Yes.
It's like I don't know, man. It's hard. It's hard. Like I would.
No, I know it's more difficult when it's your own, but I
would like if I was putting on my marketing hat, I would try to read you and see what you're into, and then if you seem like you're into like reggae shit, I'd be like, man, you should check out Island Time. And if you're into like the punky shit, I would be like, oh man, you should check out Underinsured. You know what I mean? Like it's different. Like we're all over the place, and I feel like it would be like way narcissistic of me to be like recommend like one of the acoustic songs I've written. So I don't know, man. I just don't know how to answer that question.
There's no wrong answer. You killed it. You nailed it. For our listeners who maybe aren't overly familiar with Bumpin Uglies, although I truly doubt that, but for whatever reason, where can everybody find you? Facebook groups, websites? Where do people go to check out Bumpin Uglies, man?
ChristianMingle.com, man. That's where all our information lives.
Yes. I love it. Oh
my gosh.
No, we're on it's bumpinUgliesmusic.com, and then we're on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, and guys, and if your children are around, I want you to go ahead and be careful. Type in Bumpin Uglies into that Google search bar, because some shit's gonna pop up. other than music. But Brandon, this was absolutely awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. And for me, like I said, I've been a big fan for years. I saw you, I guess, pre-tour manager, because I saw you in a real shithole in Portland.
Was it the Dublin pub?
It was the Dublin pub. Yes, it was.
Oh,
what
man.
a memory.
I fucking hated that place, man.
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have. But yeah, I saw you at the Dublin pub, and I tell people all the time, like, yeah, man, I'm like the guys in the group that rub the Sublime shit in my face. I'm like, yeah, man, I saw Bumpin Uglies before it was even cool to see Bumpin Uglies. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, it was great. And, you've always been extremely gracious. I reached out to you a couple years ago about getting my cousin some tickets to the show that you were doing here with Badfish. And you were like, man, it's not even really our show. Nah, fuck it. Give me their name. I'll put them on the list. And I was just like, yes. Yeah. So you've always been super gracious. And I know that Kelly just has an extreme amount of respect for you and all the artists that helped out on the House of Bradley.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. It was a pleasure to be a part of this.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. And guys, make sure you check out Brandon and Bumpin Uglies. Get in the Uglies Nation. After you hear it, if you really like the music and you're single, turns out that there's a singles group. You can hop in there and meet some folks that also like Bumpin Uglies. So, Brandon, thank you so much for doing this, man. And the only thing that I ask is you don't forget about us when you hit the big time and you come back and chat with us again.
That's right.
Never. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon. Sure appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure. See you.
Well, Kelly, once again, another amazing guest here. Brandon he filled a lot of things for us. He was on the amazing compilation album, The House That Bradley Built. He's one of my favorite musicians. I know how much you love Bumpin Uglies, and it turns out he's a pretty cool guy. It was a fun time chatting with him.
He's a very cool guy. He's a lot of fun to talk to. He's got good stories and good perspective. I love his approach towards music as a business. I think that's really essential. So yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, I had a great time with it. Now, on top of having a great guest that we can kind of hang out with and talk music or whatever might come up, we're going to introduce a new segment for all of our listeners, something that everybody can get used to each week. And that's with someone else that also means a lot to you, Kelly. Why don't you let everybody know what I'm talking about?
I am super stoked that we're going to do this. So at the NowellFamily Foundation, we have a really great board of directors. And as anybody who's been listening to the show knows, we've had, I think, half of our board of directors on the show already. We've had my dad, we've had my nephew Jacob, we've had Todd Zulkins, Ken Denson, Paul Milbury, Isad Williams. So we really have a powerful board of directors. And I'm excited to be able to bring some more people on the show for everybody to hear from. One of them that we have with us today is a board member that has been so key in helping me run the foundation, especially the last year. Through COVID, she has completely stepped up and helped me out and really allowed us to grow in a way that we couldn't have if I didn't have her help. So I am really excited to have with us here today NowellFamily Foundation board member and one of my absolute best friends, Brindy Pepper. Welcome, Brindy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We are so excited. Thank you for coming on. I sure appreciate it. One of the things that Jarett and I had talked about was that we really want this show to be helpful for people who are either struggling with addiction or are in recovery or know somebody who's struggling with addiction or in recovery. And we want to be able to provide some value so that there's not just interesting stories and, not just funny things, but that there's also helpful and useful things. Obviously, Bradley's House is intended to help people who are struggling with addiction. And I know that a lot of our audience does as well. And so we thought it would be really helpful to have somebody who's in recovery here with us to give us some tips, some suggestions, just be relatable. And I definitely think that's something that Brindy does. So we've asked Brindy to come on and just share some of that with us. And so Brindy,
yes.
How long have you been in recovery?
I have been in recovery for 3.5 years. Actually, I've been about 4 years, but I have been sober about 3.5 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. I think one thing that I really hope people understand from listening to this podcast is that there should be no stigma surrounding addiction. And I think our society has strange stigmas about things, and addiction is one of them. And I quite honestly am so in awe of what you have done and what you've overcome. And anytime I hear of someone in recovery, even without knowing that person, I have an instant respect for them because of what I know they've had to overcome and accomplish to get there. So I just want to start out by saying that I have the most absolute utmost respect for you because of not only what you did to get clean, but the things that you've done to stay sober and maintain your sobriety and really just make a life that you can be proud of, because I do think that you do have that now. You know, you've got amazing kids. You're a wonderful mother. You're one of the hardest working women I know. I think you're the only person I know that also has 2 full-time jobs like me. And then you do so many things on top of that. And so anyway, I wanted to start by saying that I truly have an amazing amount of respect for you.
Thank you. And you and the Knoll Foundation are a big part of my recovery.
I'm so glad. That makes me happy. So tell me, when you knew that it was time to get help, what did you do? Like, what were some of your first steps?
Well, there was kind of nowhere to run anymore. My life had fallen apart in every way. I had, I had held it together my whole life. I started drinking very young. And using drugs very young. And I always maintained a job, always took care of myself. I was on my own really young. And nobody really knew what was going on behind closed doors for the most part. And when it finally came time and the doors were busted open and all my junk was laid out everywhere, there was no choice but to get some help. And so I looked to recovery. A friend had recommended an AA meeting, and I'm like, that's the stupidest thing. I'm not going to an AA meeting. But it got to a point that I had to find recovery, or I had lost everything. So, my husband at the time and every friend I had said, you need to get into rehab immediately.
That must have been tough. I can imagine that just taking that first step is something that can be really difficult.
It was difficult, and my initial intention was to do what I was used to. I was just going to, go through the motions, show everyone I was fine, and get right back to what, I knew, which was drugs and alcohol. That was my plan.
I think that's probably pretty normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that you're part of a program that you have found to be super helpful in your life. How important is it to develop relationships with people that can support you in your sobriety?
It's the most important thing in my life. Right now, my life is so saturated with people in recovery. And it's because of that, when I have difficult days and I want to give up, somehow I believe in God, and I think God puts these people in front of me, but I'll get a text message from a friend in recovery saying, I'm just thinking about you. How are you doing? And it's amazing when you get those text messages or those phone calls. And sometimes someone calls and says, hey, I need you. And that really gets me out of my own problem. And it's amazing how those things keep me sober.
That's fantastic. So how has that changed during the COVID shutdown? I mean, obviously you weren't able to see people as much in person. What are some ways that you've adapted?
Well, so I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have a home group that meets at 6 a.m. every morning. And when everything shut down, I was, part of the steering committee, and we helped put together a conference call first. And that was working for a little while. And then we had to kind of catch up with the times and switch over to Zoom. And what was really great about it is, California is like the mecca of recovery, rehabs, which I didn't know until I got into recovery myself. But we have a lot of people that come from all over the country. And when their time is done in rehab, they go back home. And sometimes they don't make it because they built their foundation here. With Zoom, we've been able to stay in contact with the people who have been had to go back home, and some of them have now celebrated a year and a half sobriety, 2 years. I'm really amazed at the people who have gotten sober in the last year, stayed sober, and done it without the traditional in-person holding hands, feeding off energy, and had to do it through Zoom. It's been an amazing thing to see, and I have a lot of respect for those people.
Absolutely. When you first started in your recovery, or even throughout it, did you experience any guilt or shame? And what were some ways that you dealt with that?
Seriously? I had so much guilt and shame. It was heavy on me like a physical weight. And I didn't think I would ever be free of it. When you first go in, people tell you, we're going to love you until you love yourself. And I'm like, you guys are going to be loving me for a long time, because it's not going to happen. I had so much deep-rooted self-hate, and I would avoid bodies of water because I didn't even want to see my own reflection. I couldn't look at myself, and I never thought that I would overcome what I had done. I thought it defined who I was, and eventually I started to change. I started to see something different in the mirror. I started to walk a little taller, and there are still times when I'm driving in my car and thoughts will come up of the things that I've done, and it'll like take my breath away. And I have to center myself and remind myself that's not who I am today. I never have to be that person again. I went through the 4th and 5th step of writing everything down and then sharing it all with another person, burning it. Went through the 8th and 9th step of making, amends to people. And then, the rest of the steps is I walk in that every day, and I have a higher power that keeps me grounded and keeps me, just putting one foot in front of the other.
You said something really important. I think that you felt like the things that you'd done defined you. And so you really kind of had to redefine your view of yourself and how you saw yourself and who you were. What were some of the things that you did to help you do that? I mean, obviously you didn't just wake up one morning and be like, hey, I'm actually a really wonderful person. I can't believe I thought I was such a piece of shit.
I don't know that I, think I'm a wonderful person, but I try. It goes back to the people in this program. I have the best sponsor. I couldn't have asked for a better woman to come into my life, and she's like a mother to me. I call her my adopted mom, and she tells me I'm great. She tells me, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. And, I wasn't used to hearing that from a mother figure. I have abandonment issues. I'm never good enough. And she frees me of that. And then again, the women that are around me, we celebrate each other, and that, gives me the courage to keep going and to keep doing better. And I've always enjoyed like achieving things, and I hid behind my achievements when I was in my addiction. And now when I have those achievements, I get to really celebrate them and say, I did that, I did that, and I did that to the best of my ability, and I didn't half-ass it like I used to. And I can take, pride in myself today. And that makes a big difference when I wake up every morning,
Absolutely. I think everybody would love to have someone in their life that builds them up and supports them, or even just helps them through their recovery process, which obviously is a lifelong process. But, as you really start getting that going, did your sponsor come and knock on your door and say, hey, can I help you? Or did you have to seek out someone to be that person in your life?
Again, it's one of those God shots in my life. I had 5 sponsors in the short time that I had tried to get sober in the beginning. And I had gone to this 6 a.m. meeting, which, I was sitting, that's another whole story of how I found the 6 a.m. meeting. But basically, I was not sober when I got there. And when I walked in the room, there was this woman, and she was so put together. I just had so much respect for her. The things that she said, I could never even imagine this woman drinking or doing the things that I had done in my past. And I had a work event, and the people at my work are like, we're going to go have a bonfire, and we got wine spritzers. And I'm like, yay, like, this is awful. How am I going to handle this?
Yeah.
I had like 7 days sober. And when I was there, I just kept thinking, this woman's going to be so disappointed in me if I have this alcohol. And the next day at the meeting, I shared that, and everyone came up to her and they're like, is she your sponsee? And she's like, no, I don't know why she said that. And so she called me, on the first Friday I was sober. I was having a really difficult time because that was typically a night that, I was home with my kids alone. My husband usually wasn't home on Friday nights, and it was usually my time to be open and free with my drinking and drug use. And I did not want to drink. And she called me. She called me and said, do you have a sponsor? And I said, no. And I said, do you know? It's because I couldn't imagine this woman wanted anything to do with me. And I said, no, do you know someone who would? And she was like, yeah, me. And I was like, really? Like, you want to be my friend? Like, it was such a God shot and such a miracle that this woman came into my life. And, I don't do anything. I do whatever she tells me to do. I have so much respect for her, and she's saved my life. So
that's fantastic. You have had a lot of experience in the music industry, being around shows and that kind of thing where, it's always a party atmosphere, which I would imagine must be difficult, maintaining your sobriety in that environment. What are some things that you do? I know from personal experience that you have not stopped going to shows. In fact, that's how you started helping with the foundation, was helping me run the merch table. And so obviously I know it's a place you like to be. You definitely love that environment. But how do you maintain your sobriety when everybody around you is partying?
It was scary in the beginning, and I knew I had to do something because I didn't want to give up the live music. And my ex-husband was in a band, and I decided I would help embrace that, and I would become their merch girl. And by having a job and having a purpose when I was at those shows, it gave me that security. And the very first show I did, I had gone to a meeting before and said, I'm really nervous, you guys. I've got to be at this show, and there's going to be alcohol. And two of the women, one being my sponsor and one is another good friend of mine, came to that show with me and they sat at the booth with me and really just held my hand through it. And, after that, it kind of took off. I really loved doing the merch. It gave me a chance to meet people and ultimately led me to the NowellFamily Foundation. And I think working for my ex-husband's band was really just preparing me for what I needed to do for the Nowell Foundation. That's so what awesome. I believe.
That's so awesome. I believe that too. I think one thing that we all, whether we're in recovery or not, often neglect is self-care. We get busy with our lives, and so we put things off, or we put it, make it a very low priority. But when you're initially in that recovery process, and as you're active in your recovery, self-care becomes very important, because you really are, your body, your mind, your spirit, your soul, everything is really recovering, is coming from that place of negativity and realizing that you do have worth, you do have value, and that you're worth taking care of. What are some of the self-care things that you found that have been helpful?
Well, again, I can't stress enough the people, having the people around you that are supporting you and have good behaviors themselves, good attitudes. It's contagious when you're around someone who's positive or negative. And so definitely the people, it helps with my mental health, the freedom to speak. And my mind is pretty crazy, and to be able to say all my crazy thoughts and be with another person in recovery and them say, I get it. I've been there. The first words that really saved my life and made me listen in recovery was me too. Mm-hmm. When I said, you guys don't understand, I've done all these terrible things, and every person was like, me too. Let me tell you what I did, and I had always felt alone in my life. I had always felt different. I had always felt like a misfit, and I was always desperately trying to fit in. So when I was around people who thought like me and like to the core, you know what I mean? The crazy thoughts, I felt really free. And then, in early sobriety where I was just, I describe it like your skin's been peeled off. Every nerve is exposed. Everything hurts. You're laughing when you should be crying. You're crying when you should be laughing. I was blessed to live by the beach in Huntington Beach, and I would get in my car and I would drive up and down PCH and listen to music. And my playlist would be a variety of things, but I would just, sing at the top of my lungs, sometimes crying, and that would keep me sober for, 5 minutes, an hour at a time, whatever it took. And it's crazy the things that we have to do, especially in early sobriety. But if you give yourself that opportunity to go, 5 minutes at a time to 24 hours at a time, and all of a sudden, you're a week, 30 days, you're a year in, and it does get easier, but the beginning is very, very difficult. It's not for the weak, for sure.
What advice would you give to somebody who is busy like you with family and work and feels like they don't have time to do what it takes to maintain their sobriety?
I can just say that I always made time for drinking and drug use. And I was always busy. And there are meetings, especially right now with Zoom, there are meetings that literally run 24 hours a day. Get on one of them, get a phone number, link up with someone else, get a big book, be willing, be open-minded, and be willing to be honest. And it works. It's crazy. I never believed in it before. I never thought that it was something I could do. I thought my life would be boring. I grew up around, drugs and alcohol. I thought it was just who I was destined to be. And I think a lot of people can relate with that. And it's just not the case. You can be free.
Yeah. What next steps would you recommend for someone who's listening to this podcast and struggling with addictive behavior and wants to be free of it?
Just find a Zoom meeting. If you're not comfortable turning on your camera at first, just be there, just listen. You're going to hear something that you relate to. If you're an alcoholic, or drug addict, don't worry about the title. Don't worry if it's NA or AA. Just get to a support group. It's the best thing you could do to save your life, and believe that. I don't think, I never thought that I would be working with the NowellFamily Foundation. I have multiple jobs that I enjoy. I have a great relationship with my kids. I have a lot of self-respect today, a lot of confidence that I never had before. And I kind of joke that I shouldn't dream too big, because I'm at this point that if I have an idea, I typically will see it through. And that's actually crazy. My world just opened up so big when I got sober. I really can do anything I put my mind to. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much for your transparency and your honesty. One thing that I say quite a bit on this podcast is that addiction is such an isolating disease, and it really makes you feel like you're the only one experiencing those things. You're the only one who's done those things. You're the only one who feels those things. I certainly know I felt that way in my life before. And the more I spend time talking with people and getting to know people, I realize that that's just part of the human condition. I mean, we all have so many feelings and thoughts and emotions in common. And I think if we can just understand that and give ourselves grace and give other people grace, that, life would be better for everybody. I heard one time from my therapist, actually, that the opposite of addiction is connection. And that struck me so much, because I feel like it applies not just to addiction, but to so many things. And we tend to lack true connection in our lives. And so I think being a part of a program, any kind of program that helps provides that connection. And I think hearing from people who have been there helps provide that connection. And so that was why I really wanted to have you be a part of the podcast and offer that connection to people. So thank you very much, because I know it's not always easy to talk about, and your honesty and your transparency, I do believe, will help a lot of people. So thank you very much, Brindy.
Thank you. And I agree. Connection is the most important thing. And anyone listening, you're welcome to, reach out to me on Facebook. I want to see anyone who's struggling, succeed with recovery. And it doesn't always happen the first or second or third. Just keep trying. You deserve it for yourself, and I wouldn't trade this life for anything, and that was not the case before I got sober. I was at a point where I couldn't die fast enough, and I'm so grateful to you, Kelly. Like I said, you're a huge part of my recovery, and you're not in recovery, but you just are someone that I can lean on and listen to without judgment, and that's the most important thing that the human connection needs, is just a closed mouth friend who won't judge you. and just love you unconditionally. So thank you for everything you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. You are truly my hero, and I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
Oh, you guys are so cute. Well, really cool to have Brindy join us, and each episode we're going to share a little story or thought, a little more information about ways that our listeners can get some coping methods, or just know that they're not the only ones that are going through this. So I think this is something that I know I'm looking forward to, and I'm sure the listeners are really going to enjoy it as well.
I hope so. I really think it's nice to know that you're not alone in the struggle. I know, anytime I'm struggling with something, it helps me to know that there are other people going through similar things. And if I'm talking to someone who I know has experienced something similar, it gives me a sense of, of hope, really feeling like if they can come through it, I can too. So I really hope that that's something that we can provide.
Yeah, and Brindy's awesome. You guys get along so well. It's so fun to see you guys interact. You can really see that you guys enjoy working together. Now, for anybody who's listened in to this little segment with Brindy and you think to yourself, hey, maybe I'm ready to get some information, or I want to try to get some information for a loved one who's going through something similar, we do have a recommendation, and that's the folks over at Compass Detox. You've heard Kelly and I speak about them in the past. They've been great supporters of the foundation and the show. You guys can check the show description. We'll have links to Compass Detox with their information, and just a great company and a great group over there that we can recommend that's doing the right thing to help people get on the right path.
Absolutely.
Now, another thing, guys, don't forget, Kelly and I come on here each week. We bring you guys a great guest. We play some music. We have a lot of fun. And the reason why we're doing this is to help get Bradley's house up and built. And there's so many ways that you can be a part of that. On top of subscribing to the show and sharing the show page information, the Knowell Family Foundation, you guys can also donate. You can donate through Cash App and Venmo. You can go right under the knowellfamilyfoundation.org. You guys can make a donation there, or you can pick up some awesome merch. Kelly, what kind of merch can folks expect at the knowellfamilyfoundation.org right now?
We have some great stuff up. We've got some pins, some awesome pins. We've got some photo reprints from the amazing photographer Josh Kaufman that are signed and numbered. They're signed by my dad, Papa Knowell. They're signed by Jacob Knowell. They're signed by Josh Kaufman. Those are super cool and limited edition. We've got hats and socks and shirts and hoodies and all kinds of good stuff. So please check it out. Every single dollar goes towards getting Bradley's house built.
And that's what I think we all have to remember here, guys. Not only can you get yourself an awesome hoodie or an awesome hat or some Bradley's House socks, but you're also helping to get that much closer to getting Bradley's house up and built. And as fans and supporters of the Knowell family and Sublime and Bradley, this is a way that we can have our little piece in this story and help get this house up and built and start helping people out. So whatever you guys can do, sharing, liking, telling people about the podcast and the foundation, and hopping on the website and picking up some merch when you can, it all goes a long way and makes all of this worthwhile. So we thank you so much for your support. We thank you so much for hanging out with us today and checking out Brandon Hardesty and hearing a little bit more from Brindy. Unfortunately, guys, it's about that time, and you don't necessarily have to go home, but it's time to leave Bradley's house. For Jarett and Kelly Knowell, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Now, guys, keeping up with the tradition that we've been doing here at Bradley's house, we're going to, of course, end you with a song. And this one's coming from the house that Bradley built. Kelly, it was an easy pick today. What do we got for our listeners?
We're going to have Bumpin Uglies cover of Same in the End. They really nailed it. One thing I love about the house that Bradley built compilation is that every artist put their own spin on the song. And I think that the Uglies really came through and did a great job with Same in the End, which is one of my favorite Sublime songs.
Absolutely. I love it. So guys, check this out. You can find all of the links to these songs on YouTube. They're available at the Law Records page. And now they're also soon going to be available on the Bradley's House YouTube page. Make sure you check us out there, subscribe. Wherever you're listening, hit that 5-star review. We certainly can use it. And if you guys have any questions, you can reach us at bradleyshousepodcast@gmail.com.
Down in Mississippi where the sun beats down from the sky, they give it up and they give it up and they give it up, but they never ask why. Daddy was a rolling, rolling stone. Oh, Rectide on my ass and it makes me itch. I can see for miles and miles and miles. Oh, my broken heart makes me smile. In my mind, in my brain, I go back and go completely insane. It ain't personal, it ain't me. If I make you cry, my